What's been one of your biggest surprises?
I've been kind of surprised by just how many things work themselves out in life and in business. You think when you start out as a business, you think, man, we're so special, we're so unique, we have this concept that no one's doing like this, or we're so different. But also, what if a competitor comes in and crushes us? Or what if what if something happens with our clients that bothers them and then all of them fire us overnight or something? There's some irrational thoughts, maybe some insecurities as well as a first time founder. But I've noticed that a handful of things, when I just leave them alone, things tend to go okay. And most people are pretty reasonable in business too. If you mess up, most people are going to be understanding if you're just upfront with them. And people aren't I guess customers and people aren't as finicky as I guess you might think they would be.
This is the Snowball Effect. You're listening to the Marketing Playbook series, presented by the Snowball Effect podcast. It's growth done right.
Hey, I'm Todd, and welcome to the Snowball Effect podcast. This is our Marketing Playbook series, and I'm really excited today. I've got Phil Kirkeiner here from Baton. Welcome to the podcast, Phil.
Thanks a lot, Todd. Happy to be here.
Well, it's good to have you, and I want to get a little bit into Baton and learn about the company, but first, I want to get to know you a little bit, Phil. So I want you to tell our audience something interesting about you that maybe, the average Joe Schmo doesn't know.
Oh man, something interesting about me. Well, my favorite thing to tell people, one of my most proud accomplishments of my life is back in high school. Well, I'm just a person where if I like something, I get really into it. And one of the things I got into in high school with my best friend was Dance Dance Revolution. So we won, there was a Dance Dance Revolution tournament at our high school. And of course, we swept the floor. And then we would also go to all of the arcade machines around central Indiana where we grew up, and we'd put the records on those machines on the hardest songs. That's something that I look back on fondly, and I wish life was as simple as just going to arcades every day, but life changes. So
That is insanely cool, Phil. If I had something that cool, that would be etched on my tombstone. I would make that request right now. How do you go from just playing around at an arcade on Dance Dance Revolution to wait, you did this at high school? Like they did a big competition or something? Like, how does that work?
yeah, I don't remember how, I mean, DDR was kind of big back then,
Mm-hmm.
it was more popular than it is now. And it was part of some big senior party or whatever. And someone had the idea to put together a tournament as part of this bigger event. And it wasn't that big of a deal, but it's still just something we won. And, uh,
You
but
say it's not a
just,
big deal, and then you be sure to say, but by the way, we won. I want to be very clear about that.
yes, we
That's
won.
awesome.
But just like with anything that people enjoy, any hobby, if you get into it a lot, you'll find a community of people who are even more into it than you. And there's all kinds of other resources to take it to the next level. One of the things we didn't just buy the DDR games and practice at home. Like we would do that, but we also found an open source DDR program that we could put onto our computer, and people would upload their own songs. We'd create our own step charts, and we'd find the top ranked people in the world and go watch them on YouTube. And then we'd play the hardest songs on our keyboard, just using hitting the steps on our keys, and then trying to go to the arcades and find the machines that were hacked and then play like the extra hard songs or whatever. So it was just kind of fun to get really into, you know. I think it's important for people to find something they enjoy and get really good at it. It builds confidence.
Right? Even if it's DDR, to just be next level at it is
Even
so
if it's
much.
DDR.
That's incredible. If I were to go out to any of the local arcades, I've never said that phrase in my life. I don't even know where a local arcade is. But if I were to go somewhere, would your records still be on their Dance Dance Revolution machine?
Unfortunately, no. If you went to central Indiana, and looked at some of those out there, a lot of the machines get people, the arcades lease them. And when they
Gotcha.
go to a new home, they usually will reset the scores, or sometimes when
Ah,
they just even unplug machines or whatever, or install a new software update or something, they might reset the scores. So it wasn't much of a long lasting legacy that we left behind, but it still lives on in here where it really matters.
that's fantastic. Well, it's a travesty that those aren't living on, but that's something you'll pass on for many generations, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
it'll go on the
that,
tombstone for sure, like you're
that's
saying.
that's awesome. Okay, kind of building off of that, you talked about passions and things that people really get into, and maybe DDR is your answer. but I want to know something that you're really passionate about. And then I want you to pitch to me why I should be as passionate about it as you are.
Back in high school, I went to the skate park a lot, but I didn't skate. I scooted, and I started the BYU Scooter Club to get other scooter enthusiasts who take scootering too seriously to get involved in that. And back when I was growing up in Indiana, I was the only scooter kid at the skate park. But now, if you go to any skate park around Utah, that
You're all over the
it's mostly scooter kids, right? I'm passionate about this. I think that kids, when they go to the skate park, they learn how to put themselves in controlled scenarios and commit. Like when they drop into a half pipe and commit, like that's good for someone to build confidence and take risks. When you land a new trick, it's like a real life video game. You level up and learn a new skill that no one can take away from you. So I think it's awesome that scooters are becoming such a more accessible uh, way to access skate parks because they're easier to learn, they're safer than skateboards, and they're cheaper too. I think we should totally be celebrating this. As annoying as it is for any skateboarders, and been doing this for 10 years, and see little kids zigzag across the park with no park etiquette and crash into them every once in a while. I think it's totally worth it because you get all these kids getting into extreme sports from a young age, and those kids are going to go on to snowboard, they're going to go on to ski, they're going to go on to maybe do BMX or something too, or maybe just be a little bit less afraid down the road because they went up and down ramps and got hurt from time to time and they were okay. So that's something I'm passionate about. I think you should be passionate about too. What do you think?
It's a pretty good pitch. It's a pretty good pitch. I totally get behind the like all the good values and the principles that kids are learning. Why should I, as a middle-aged man,
Are you
become?
middle aged?
I'm middle-aged. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I
Okay.
haven't got as much hair as you. I haven't ever done DDR in my life,
You look like
but
you could have.
why should a middle-aged man like me pick it up now in my life? I want to hear that pitch.
Oh, why you should pick it up now?
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to be passionate from the sidelines. If I'm going to be passionate about something, it's going to be something I'm involved in. So why should I pick this up now?
Do you have kids?
I do.
Okay. Are they young?
No, they're not. They're a little bit older.
Okay, but you might have grandkids someday,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Someday, someday.
And you probably want to be a cool grandpa.
Oh man, you're hitting me where this counts. Yeah, yeah. I would want to be. I would desperately, probably too desperately, want to be one of those
I'll
cool
tell you
grandpas.
what, to this day, when I get a scooter, any kid that's riding a scooter and I go up to them and say, hey, check this out, and I do a little tail whip or just some little jump or a 360 or something, they go nuts. And
Okay.
right away, they're endeared to me. If you want that instant ticket to endear your grandchildren to you forever, be the cool grandpa.
Okay. You read the room really well because that hits home. I can tell right now I will want to be the cool grandpa. So I got to start refining my skills now.
Yeah, you don't want to wait till it's too late.
That's right.
They're going to form their opinion of you early, and if you got to cement that.
I've got to cement that in. And now I've got to get online and see if there's any skate parks that welcome like middle-aged men just hanging around.
You
That's
could go to Woodward in Park City. I think they have a big jump that goes into a foam pit.
nice. That's what I'm going to
Yeah,
do right there. Okay, okay. You convinced me. All right, that's something I've got to get passionate about.
yeah. Maybe they'll even teach you how to do a backflip if you ask nicely enough.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thanks for having fun with me on that. That the guy from Dos Equis, the most interesting man in the world, I think he's got competition now because those are two things I was not expecting to hear for DDR
Smart.
and scootering. So thanks for sharing that. Now let's pivot a little bit into what you're doing now. You're the co-founder and the CEO of Baton. Tell our audience exactly what Baton does and really what sets you apart.
Sure. So Baton is a platform for service companies to refer leads to each other. Service companies tend to get lots of calls from consumers who need help but might who the company might not be able to service themselves. For example, in the pest control space, there's all kinds of different types of pest control. You could do bed bugs or termites or commercial pest control or wildlife removal and or just regular spray around the house perimeter control. But to consumers, it's all just pest control. But companies tend to have limited service profiles or different niches within that they're good at. So Baton's a platform where companies can refer any lead that they can't service or any lead that's out of their area or whatever. They can refer that to another company and get paid for providing that. And then other companies can refer qualified exclusive leads back to them, like passing the baton, right?
Ah, okay. I get it now. That's fantastic. That's great. So you really make it so that these home service companies can go ahead and pass these leads over to somebody else, or are you talking different geographic regions or just different specialties? What are they passing along, or who are they?
All of the above. So companies that maybe I'm a pest control company and someone calls me, they say, "Hey, I've got a raccoon in my attic. Can you help get it out and clean up the mess it made?" A lot of companies will just say, "Hey, we only spray for bugs. Let me pass you to a wildlife removal company." Or sometimes people will say, "Hey, you've been servicing my house for years for pest control. I'm moving to Florida. Can we transfer my account to Florida?" And they might say, "Hey, we're only in Utah, but let me pass you to a Florida company."
Oh,
Stuff like that.
I totally get that. That's fantastic. It was that unique B2B referral is something that obviously we're in the referral business, but
Mhm.
it's more B2C type stuff. So we're big believers in that, and seeing you flourish with that on the B2B level is really intriguing. Now I want to pick your brain just a little bit about something, like I said, that we're really passionate about: word of mouth marketing. You've been in business for a while and you've started other businesses. What do you think are some of the actionable strategies that companies can start utilizing to really magnify their word of mouth marketing?
Yeah, well, I mean, the number one strategy you can do is just do a good job for customers. That's the core of it all. You want to just make a really, really happy customer who doesn't need any other incentive to talk about you. That's the basic, right? But people also have busy lives and they might need reminded to do that, or encouraged, or to amplify your message to get them to talk about you. So there's a lot of things you could do. Reviews are huge, right? It's where you can, on Google, Yelp, wherever you're going to get the review, if you could get that made public, someone's good experience highlighted for someone else to see and get lots and lots of them, that says a lot too. So you can get reviews, do a great job, and then also referral programs. This kind of talks about, is related to Snowball, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where, yeah, if you value your customers, in, and you value getting new customers, give them an incentive to share you. It's people. A lot of people will just talk about the kindness of their own heart, but people, I guess, people love free stuff. People love to feel important, and if you make them an ambassador or give them access to make money from referring, and they have friends who know they can use it, cost of living is getting crazy. So everyone's looking for a way to make a few extra bucks and also help a friend, and that's what referrals do. Ultimately, if you had a great time with a service provider, you're going to enjoy referring someone over to them because you had a great experience as well. It's like doing something nice for them. So that's a strategy I'd say. Just do a great job, get reviews, then also implement some sort of referral program for your customers. But don't just send out an email to them and says, "Hey, refer someone to us and we'll pay you 25 bucks." Like, you really got to get them activated and incented. And I think that's why Snowball is a pretty compelling platform to do that really well.
Yeah, we work hard at it because it definitely takes not just the automation and the technology behind the scene, but just understanding the human psychology of, hey, people need to be reminded several times, and that conversation needs to be nurtured over time. But the thing that I like that you said a lot right at the beginning, because I really think it's foundational, is look, you got to start with the way you treat your customers and the service that you're providing. And we like to remind companies all the time. I just wrote a big article about this on our website, that there's certain mindsets that if you don't have, you can have all the referral programs in the world and all the incentives in the world. And one of those mindsets you have to have is just satisfaction's not enough. Satisfaction sucks. What you have to do is delight. And if you're in the business of delighting, now we can start building referral programs and adding things on that. So I love that you mentioned that right at the beginning. Let me ask you, Phil, because I'm really intrigued by your background. You're the co-founder of Baton. You've done some other cool things in your past. I want to ask you two questions about being a founder. First of all, what's been the biggest challenge that you've seen? And then what's been one of the biggest surprises?
Those are good questions. Sometimes I don't really sit back and reflect enough. I just kind of day to day starting a business, you just go. I don't really think back. What was the biggest challenge I ever faced? Because if a lot of big challenges you just move on from. As soon as they're solved, just okay, on to the next one. But probably the biggest challenge for me when I started Baton, Well, I guess my biggest challenge is that I'm a people pleaser. It's like one of my saboteurs, I guess you'd call it, if you talk about like positive intelligence,
Right.
self help stuff. And I like when people like me. I like that everyone around me is happy and okay, and that everyone's getting along. And since Baton has grown, I've been forced, and I say that intentionally, forced to hire employees and to grow a team, and sometimes begrudgingly step into the role of CEO, of having to hire and fire employees or make hard decisions. That's been really difficult for me. But it's also been great because I'm a new father. I had a first child last year at the end of the year.
Congratulations.
Thanks. And I can totally see how a lot of these leadership lessons will apply to raising great kids and all that too. But I would definitely say just embracing the uncomfortableness and having to make the hard decisions as a manager has been the hardest part for me because I like being creative. Most founders like the creative problem solving process, but stepping into this kind of operator role has probably been most difficult. So,
I really resonate with that, Phil. Being a people pleaser myself, and I just want everyone to be having fun. And I've got an agency background, so I grew something for a decade. And you're right, the creative part of it is so fun. The growing part is so fun. The sales, the marketing, so much of that is so fun. But when you have to be candid and clear with somebody that isn't quite hitting certain marks, I think that's a really authentic answer to have to come to terms with that and to actually push through that and develop that new skill. I think that's a really
thanks.
authentic answer. What's been one of your biggest surprises?
I've been kind of surprised by just how many things work themselves out in life and in business. You think when you start out as a business, you think, man, we're so special. We're so unique. We have this concept that no one's doing like this, or we're so different. But also, what if a competitor comes in and crushes us? Or what if what if something happens with our clients that bothers them and then all of them fire us overnight or something? There's some irrational thoughts, maybe some insecurities as well as a first time founder. But I've noticed that a handful of things, when I just leave them alone, things tend to go okay. And most people are pretty reasonable in business too. If you mess up, most people are going to be understanding if you're just upfront with them. And people aren't I guess customers and people aren't as finicky as I guess you might think they would be.
They're really
So,
reasonable, right?
mhm.
When you think, oh, they're gonna react a certain way, and you reach out to them, you talk through it, and most people are pretty reasonable, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say, because there's a million things to be on top of or keep track of. And because I'm the people pleaser type person, before, I guess I'll say, before Baton started to grow a lot, I was the type of person who had all of my messages read in my email and phone. I responded to everybody fast.
You're a
I
zero inbox guy.
zero inbox kind of
Yep.
guy. I liked tinkering and being on top of everything. But now I've just been forced to I have 500 unread messages in my texts and I have thousands of unread emails and things are going okay. Not
No,
everything needs my attention right away and things work out if you just focus on the next thing.
I think there's so much there as we unpack it together a little bit. One of my favorite managers early on in my career, the leadership team that I was on, we would have what we called Whoopensif, which is, what if this happens? What if this happens? And some of us were a little bit of worriers. And so we started tagging it as Whoopensif. Whoopensif this happens. And I know it's a silly word, but I'm going to trademark it still. Maybe I'll name a book someday, Whoopensif. But this manager was so good. When we're creating worst case scenarios in our head, he would always ask one specific question: are we solving a specific problem right now? Like, are we struggling with that problem right this minute? And if the answer was no, he'd always say, then let's let it play out. Let's let it play out until we can really articulate the problem. And then we'll solve the problem, and we're not going to be trying to solve imaginary problems. And that always stuck with me, that whoopins if and that what problem are we solving, and let it play out. And I think that I really resonate with your comment there that not everything needs your attention. Not everything needs your worry. Most things end up working themselves out. Love
Hmm.
that. That's fantastic. Now I want you to look down the road a little bit. I want to pick your brain about future trends. So I want you to go all Nostradamus on us and predict the future here. What what are some future trends in business and in technology that you think people ought to look out for?
The big one's AI, right?
Right, right.
Uh, Customer service is ripe for disruption. And I think that we're going to see lots and lots more. It'll probably take 10 years to see widespread adoption, is my guess. I'm not a futurist. But I think in 10 years, we'll see almost every single business using AI for customer service for 80% of the things that need done. And if any business isn't doing that, then it's going to be some sort of differentiator that's intentional with it or something that people intentionally seek out. But at least right now, we've been experimenting with AI agents for certain things, like to help us facilitate referrals between companies and whatnot. And they're not perfect, and it does take a lot of fine tuning and such. But I think we're going to see products come out over the next 10 years that make it just plug and play for any business to have a AI powered, super smart customer service agent. So that's one that I'd say for sure.
I think that's insightful because it feels like that's where any company, no matter how small or large, could have a state of the art customer service center, essentially, right through a series of AI agents. I think that to me feels like if you look at what huge businesses can offer right now and how many of their little services could be created, could be duplicated by AI, those would now be available to a mom and pop shop. To have an always on, really knowledgeable customer service agent at any of their customers' beck and call, I'd agree with that, that in the near future, that's just going to be standard, no matter your
Yeah,
size.
totally agree. And we all like to think our business is so special and that we do things so different than everybody else. But especially in the service business, it's a lot of the same stuff. It's scheduling, it's a lot of it's scheduling related. But how different can a pest control service be from company to company, right? You're trying to get rid of the bugs, right? Pressure washing, you spray the hose at something and clean it and you do it efficiently or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like in the service realm, most stuff is the same. It's just a matter of it's the operating that I feel like makes a big difference for people. So I expect to see productized AI customer service agents for all types of different industries that are specialized and just for everything.
Even for our small marketing team, I created a custom GPT for our marketing team and basically had it ingest all of our past marketing material so that it got all the FAQs. It saw all the main value propositions that we were creating, our voice, our tone, all of that. And I basically uploaded it into the system, started asking it questions, and it needed some training, just like you said. But I started seeing that it started reflecting back to me our voice, our tone, and definitely all those common questions or those common benefits and features that we like to talk about. And this is
Mhm.
still early. So I could totally see that happening in the customer support realm. So I think that's well said. Anything else stand out as far as the future for you, Phil?
I guess for Baton, what we see in the future is people relying more on word of mouth. This is a word of mouth podcast, but there's just so many options out there and there's just so much information out there that I think people are going to rely more on trust and reviews to sift through the noise a little bit. I think reviews, we'll see more reviews like showing verified on them people and more companies that are trying to capitalize more on their, and we see all the changes with Google and such too, with using Gemini and how we think things are all the same. But if companies can have a customer base that is a champion of them, I think that's going to be a huge. If you're nimble to generate leads and grow your business, especially in the service realm, with all the changes in AI, if you're savvy and can and still rank the top of Google or get showed up at the top of Gemini's results, that's awesome. But people, the companies that can take their customer list and really engage them to generate to make it more of a scalable kind of customer acquisition channel and get more out of that, that's something that you control, and I think that's going to be more and more leaned on. So your customer base, reviews, and word of mouth, and then I guess being flexible will help people tackle the future trend of needing to find new sources of trust, or not new sources, but trustworthy sources are going to be more and more valuable, I think, as we shop for things online.
I couldn't agree more with that, Phil, especially in an AI world like we just talked about, where marketing creation, the amount of noise, you got to think that's just going to continue to increase, right? The amount of noise, the amount of content, the amount of everything. I think it creates this vacuum, this space, and that people have that marketing and companies are going to need to be more human than ever before. And I look at a lot of things from a marketing lens and humanizing marketing like never before. And then I like what you said as far as reviews being verified and like these authenticity signals that people are going to be looking for in an increasingly noisy world. I think that's really something that's going to help people really stand out. So,
Part of why people like Baton is the leads or referrals that companies get from Baton convert really well because they're not just people who went on the internet and called a company that appeared on a listing or that Google ranked for them. I mean, they're coming. The company who gets a lead from Baton came from another service company who said, "Hey, we don't do that, but call these guys." And it's, "Oh, here's an actual human that's saying these guys can help me," and they wouldn't refer them to them unless they were had some sort of vetting or were trusted. So people like that. People love that sort of authentic interaction, and consumers have a great experience when they get referred by companies who use Baton. Baton companies like it because it's a warmer customer, and I just think all around, if we can get more word of mouth marketing if companies can just leverage word of mouth marketing more, they're going to get cheaper, better customers and better leads from that.
I absolutely agree with that. And as I teach marketing to our team, and we talk a lot about it on podcasts and stuff, as far as I'm concerned, that's where marketing should start now. Start it at the bottom of the funnel there with your current customers. Have a butt kicking service, like you said, treat them really, really well, but nurturing those relationships and then handing them a megaphone so that they can bring in those warm leads themselves. It's the most authentic way to grow. And I think its need is just going to increase as people crave these human, trusted interactions, like you said. Well said. Let me pick your brain here for just a second because there's a lot of folks out there that are looking to build their business. They're trying to balance building a business, keeping these customers happy, their personal life. I just want to open that door for just a second and ask you a personal question. What's personal advice that you would give that you wish you had known several years ago?
This is something I knew, but I didn't internalize, which is you're just as qualified to be in the room as everyone else. And starting out, the people pleaser in me, I like people to want people to like me or whatever. I think a lot of us are insecure when we try to do something we've never done before because we go our whole life getting good grades, performance reviews at work, and being told we're getting a great job. Here's your bonus. Like, you're so great. Social media, we can curate how we appear to ourselves, but it is risky and it's unsettling at times to go out and do something new, to start something new, to risk failure, and sometimes the fear, humiliation of that as well. So when I first started out, I remember having some trepidation when I'd reach out to our first customers. Baton was just getting started. I needed customers or even to see if Baton was a good concept. So I bought a ticket to Pest World, which is a big pest control conference that happens every year in a different city. And that year it was in San Diego in 2019. So I bought a ticket to Pest World, and it was scary, but I just bought a T-shirt and put Baton on it, and Baton wasn't a thing yet. And I just walked around
That's a
and
great story. So
yeah, and then people, I'd say, "Hey, have you heard of Baton yet?" And people would go, "Oh no, what is it? Where's your booth?" And I say, "Oh, the booth's over there." So anyway, what we're doing is blah 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 blah, and that was scary, right? But
right.
I'm glad I did it, and people didn't care that I didn't have anything, or even when I was just upfront with people and said, "Yeah, it's a brand new thing. I'm a new analyst at this company. I'm just trying to see if this idea has legs." Blah blah blah. People love that. And in fact, if you're just upfront with people and tell them that you don't really know what you're doing, sometimes they're happy to help. What I want every entrepreneur business leader to know, or someone going into that, is when you're doing something new, just don't be afraid. Just be authentic, and the anxiety about something is always worse than actually doing it. That's what would be my 2 cents for any entrepreneur, is just do the thing, and it's all going to be fine. And even if it doesn't work out well, no one's going to, people really don't just think about you. much after any uncomfortable
They don't
interaction.
think about you, let alone think about you poorly. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
just
it's just
just do your thing.
if you want to do something, just do it. And if you're afraid that someone's gonna think wrong of you, or you're gonna have uncomfortable situations, just it's a skill. Just keep doing it. You'll get better at it, and you're gonna do awesome. Whoever's listening to this, I believe in you. Todd believes in you. You
I
know.
I absolutely love that, Phil. 2 things that you said that I really is, 1, you belong in that room, right?
Mhm.
Like, just all the skill sets in this room, I belong here. It's that old imposter syndrome that we all fight, and it doesn't go away with age, it doesn't go away with experience, it just gets replaced with some other flavor of imposter, syndrome. But the other thing that you said is even when you would tell people that, hey, I'm new to this, I'm still figuring it out, and people would think that's awesome. It's kind of that lemonade stand effect, right? It's we see a lemonade stand and we're not critiquing them, we're actually rooting for them. We want that young person to get out there and try. And actually, people respect that and they're rooting for you. And I think there's a lot more people out there that are rooting for us to be successful than we may imagine. Or worst case, like you said, they're not even thinking about us. So get over ourselves and let's just get out there. So
Amen to that.
I'd love that. Any other advice that you would give to young entrepreneurs, young business people? What would you tell them?
I would tell them start now. It's the same advice, but I'd also with that when I say start now, I don't say build a big business plan. I don't say spend 5 years building the perfect app before waiting till everything's perfect for launch. Like just start doing now. And I have tons of friends. They all say, "Oh, I had this business idea. It'd be so cool if I tried this." And I was like, "Okay." Have you talked to a potential customer? Have you asked anyone about it? Have you like people are like, "Oh yeah, I've been building this app." I met someone once who spent like 2.5 years building an app. It was something like it was like an Airbnb for renting art studio or something, and and they were just building and building and building and quit their job and just built for so long, and then it eventually failed. I'm like, dude, you don't need to you didn't need to quit your job. Just you can go on there and find Facebook groups of people of artists who are looking for studios and get feedback and start building a list. And you can reach out to art studios or people that have them and ask what they would expect to be paid. Like you could theoretically like just see if there's demand for stuff without actually having to take the big leap, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense that we got to get out of our head and get in front of people, get that idea out
Exactly.
there, just get it in front of other people as soon as possible. I really resonate with that.
Yeah.
This has been a really fun conversation. Your energy, your excitement, the wisdom you've learned with Baton there. If people want to reach out to Baton and they want to find out, wow, how could I take advantage of these referral opportunities, these B2B referral opportunities? And this is just revenue. I'm leaving on the ground. I just need to bend over and pick it up. How do they reach out, contact you, and learn more?
Yeah, just go to batonleads.com. So batonleads.com. I'm realizing I should have worn that shirt today for this podcast. I'm wearing one of my college businesses I started, Every Bank Bonus. But yeah, go to batonleads.com, fill out the interest form. If you're in any service industry, we'd love to have you on the platform, especially if you're in pest control. We started there. We have about 600 companies in pest control and wildlife removal and nationwide coverage, and whatever you want to refer someone for, we've got someone who's going to pay you for that lead for the most part. So um, we love to have you. Whatever service industry you're in, please come talk to us.
Love it.
Well, and if you listen to this podcast too, if you mention this podcast, we'll throw some free referral credits at you as well.
Nice. I like that. I like that a lot. Phil, thank you so much for joining the Snowball Effect podcast. It's been a great conversation.
Thanks a lot, Todd. Had a great time. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And for our audience, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Snowball Effect. Have a good one.
See you guys.